All right, yeah, I think I'm rolling. Okay, it's recording. All right, so uh, let's see. So look up a word, and yeah, it ends up being um, some lyrics in a video. And let's watch the video real quick. Now, one thing is so this is an entire app with a word including from that's the app that's assembled out of the HTML. Okay, so and I'll show you like the rest of what this is all about, like a CMS where the idea is data augmentation of everything you upload, and if you upload tarballs, it will unpack them into the tree. And at least for the main app itself, it facilitates doing a hot editing of a React app over top of an app. All right, so last year I'd started working on a like a minimal content management system. And the reason why is it bore some resemblance to a project that I'd worked on at my previous company, where the whole idea was about data augmentation of uploaded files and basically putting a permission system on top of HTTP. Um, so this is a Go project, and and I've stood up a few containers. And so I have a container for my microcms, and for Prometheus, and for Tika. And the main idea is microcms hosts the API for uploading files, and they could be like large files like movies, or they could be like very many small files. And you can also upload tarballs up to a URL, and it will unpack the tarball into it. So the idea is you could upload an entire application, for instance. And one of the reasons why you would want to do things this way is it needs to be safe to upload content. You can't just have a mosh pit where everybody can upload whatever they like, because some people will be deleting your content, or some people will be uploading content that you don't want to be associated with. So we got microcms, and it just goes out to Prometheus for reporting metrics. It uses Tika for extracting text out of PDFs and Word docs and stuff like that. And what's really important is this reverse proxy. And the idea of the reverse proxy is to let you hot load, edit the React app as it runs. So, for instance, if we go down to the config for the reverse proxy, iterates these variables, R proxy 0, 1, whatever, until one's missing, and that's like terminates the end of the list. So the idea is you have endpoints like files, metrics, registration. Registration is so it sets who you are. Metrics is being used by Prometheus. Files is literally like the file system tree, and it has like post, delete, and get. We have search for doing keyword searching, and the React UI actually uses it. And we have, for parts of reverse proxy that just go to Prometheus, you can see Prometheus, or we can see our attributes about ourselves. And then the last thing is it will just go to the React app. And of course, it's being served HTTPS, so there's a certificate and a key that you set up. And the only port that I really even have open is 8443. I would have made it 443, but I have a setup where it conflicts with 443. So the thing about this CMS is it does everything by naming convention. So if I were to deploy a bunch of stuff, the deploys would look like this. You would have a cookie that gets sets that associates you with your attributes, and those are used as part of the upload. For instance, if I just want to, I have an HTML app that I put into a tarball, and if I upload app.tar, and when I do it, if I, while uploading a tarball, if I put the attribute install equals true, it will literally install the app into the tree. And that's why I have a directory called app. And on here, this is a signal that it's like an actual app that is installed into the tree, right? In this case, it was just some HTML and some file content, but it would be something more complicated and something more interactive. For instance, here is a Braille keyboard app. So obviously that's got JavaScript, it's got custom fonts. Anything you would need in a built React app could go here too, if you wanted one fully built. But this app itself, let me show you for example, if you look for the word dog and you hide all mismatches, everywhere in the tree where you have read access, you're going to get hits. And that means that, I got documents where it went out to AWS recognition and it looked at an image and it determined that it was an actual image of a dog, even though the name didn't give us this explicitly, right? And there's the thumbnails. So every time you upload something, it goes through a pipeline. If it's an image, it gets thumbnail pipelined, and it'll show the metadata. And if you upload an image like this one, for instance, even if you do it by way of a tarball, it goes out to AWS recognition and does content moderation. And here it says moderation. There's nothing to see here. No big deal. But there were some areas where moderation found something. So AWS AI recognition, the famous Nicki Minaj lollipop pic, it saw this picture and it said that there's something about it, swimwear or underwear, suggestive. It's a 96 kilobyte file, and there's a timestamp and date for when it was uploaded. And celebs, and it probably, yeah, there you go. There's a name, Nicki Minaj. So if you wanted to get attributes on this, you got to annotate it inside the React app. But one thing about the React app is I've literally loaded in the reverse proxy itself a React app that runs on 3000, so that you don't do like an npm build, you just keep editing the source code. For instance, this afternoon, I put this date stuff in. So, and I put it in hot reloading. So I made a few changes to the Go service that's in the back end. And then once I made changes to the Go service, tree, right? And so let's see, VI handler, like that, for instance. All right. So this is the main thing. If you have a file, there's like a shadow file that always exists for the attributes on it. For example, I only uploaded that one Nicki Minaj JPEG pic, and these got created. Slabs.json, labels, moderation. Labels are like, what is this? It's like, is this a human or something like that, right? So it drew bounding boxes for me, and there's a female person, stuff like that. All right. Rob Fielding resume. For instance, this was a PDF and it did a text extract on it. And so there is my resume with a text extract. That was done with Tika. Now one thing, I had a few choices to make. I could have stored the files in S3. In some ways that would simplify things, other than the fact that I'm just getting all the S3 buckets set up. It's harder for someone else to try it out. You can't. It's harder to containerize it. For instance, the fact that I'm using AWS recognition, the creation of like labels and moderation and celebs, you won't have that unless you set some AWS keys. So I am using the file system for this, and since the file system is my persistence, I have an S3 adapter. I hadn't gotten it fully working yet, but on previous apps like this, I use it S3 by default. But there's something regarding seekable file objects, and if they're not seekable, you can't just easily swap between S3 and plain old file system. There's some stuff I got to work out on that. But in any case, whenever you upload a file, before you upload the file, you can upload a permission about the file. For example, this JPEG, and that's a picture of some guy, and we can figure out who he is by searching on his name. But the permission here, I'm using Rego. I was looking at Cedar for a while as an alternative, but the thing about Rego is because it's about attributes, you can actually issue tokens to users such that the user doesn't necessarily have a name where they can be looked up by. So you can have anonymous people, and this is like an important GDPR thing. You might be a citizen of Netherlands with no higher level of detail, for instance, right? I'm an adult. But in this case, I have where it's labeled top secret, but I'm looking in the attributes. It's like you got to be an adult to see it, and it could be something more complicated, like a Boolean circuit that represents a security clearance, and that's a pretty common thing. So I'll go up and do a search. All these things, every single directory has permissions. For instance, permissions for the home directory in general, it's a totally read-only directory, so it's got an R on it. The admins, the admin, since I am an admin, I have R and W, so these are the permissions that I actually have. I have read and write here because I own it. This is not my directory. I don't own any of it, so I only have read permissions on it, right? Because the owner is someone that has this email, and they have read access and they don't have write access. But if Donica777 logged in, she would have write access. And so, open policy agent's actually a reasonably good language for expressing these sorts of policies that are attached to objects. I was trying to do it on Rego, and on Cedar, and Cedar seems quite a bit more complicated for what I'm trying to do. I think I made the right choice. But in any case, if I look for a word and I hide all mismatches, when I do this, you'll notice that there you go. So if I got thousands and thousands and thousands of records back, fortunately, it's all in a tree, so it's not like millions of pages to scroll through or whatever it would be. So if I change this to the word dog, end up with these, end up with references in the Bible. Now this search, I could have used Elasticsearch, but at the time I was testing out SQLite, and so a little bit strangely, instead of using Elasticsearch, I'm just using embedded SQLite database, and I'm actually not using the database for anything else. So initially, that's what this whole thing was for, was just doing searching, and I've never really had to add a database to maintain the tree. I just used the file system for this. And if I had S3, I would use S3 queries to figure out what's in the tree. As an example of how some things got in here, as a CMS, what you want to be able to do is, at least for like the main React app that you're proxying over everything, you can install apps anywhere within the tree, because, for instance, I made a tarball of a React test app, and it works in spite of the fact that there's a /images in it. That's because I set public URL equal to dot. But this is a npm run build, so I tarred up an npm run build and I put it in the tree, and I could put it in. I could put multiple copies anywhere I like in the tree, and it would be no problem. And of course, I showed previously a simple HTML app. You know, and it's got a couple images, some HTML, and some permissions. And I have the Braille app, which has some custom fonts and whatnot. It was basically like a JavaScript. For example, I think the Bible in a Gilgamesh I had uploaded as an actual tarball. Certainly for the Gilgamesh. That's why it's in its own directory as well. So let's look at our media. So the Bible, we made a tarball of it, and it was just a collection of stuff. So I unloaded into the tree, and that's why it made this directory, and it install equals true, right? And these are all post requests. These are putting things up. I do have some examples of deleting some things. Let's see where I have an example. Where I have such an example. Oh, yeah, actually I don't have the example anymore. Yeah, because I just like leave it up. But in case, if you do like a curl delete on a specific URL, it will delete it, but it will respect these Rego files that specify the permissions, and if you don't have permissions to delete it, the delete will fail if you don't have the permissions to update it, right? So that's read, write, execute. So you need write in order to either delete or update. You need read in order to perform a get on it. But the idea is that you can make a React app, do an npm run build on it, and upload it somewhere in the tree. But it's a special case that for the actual app itself, init UE source. All right, and this is kind of horrible code because I'm learning React, and I'm actually copying some things in from ChatGPT, and they're not necessarily pretty. But if this actual source code tree, this TSX file, if I make a minor change to it and reload it, it will hot reload. And I guess I can do a quick example of that. Something stalled. I hope the video is still running. Actually, how much time do I have? Oh, you shit me. Did I not record? Oh, no. that would be nuts. Alright, I'm going to stop the video because this video is going to be huge. But in any case, yeah, I'm in the React app. And that's it for now for my CMS. Ton of Go code.